Hi friends, it's Deanna here today and I'm super excited about our video. It's a continuation of our last video where we used the Summer Nights romper and we added this cute detail to the sleeve to make them like a gathered sleeve. Super adorable. And we talked about making this into a dress. So now today on this video, we're going to add the bottom piece and create a cute, this cute trendy dress. So let's do it. Alright, so I am going to be actually using the Be Graceful skirt pattern for this hack, but honestly you can really use any kind of skirt that you want to use. Now remember the Summer Nights romper, it's a little bit of a looser waist, so it's not fitted at the waist, which means that if you attach a skirt, you either have to have a well, if you like it to be loose, then that'd be fine. But if you want it to be more fitted at the waist, you either have to put in elastic or you have to do a drawstring, which this pattern actually offers the option to do either. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an elastic waistband is what I'm going to use. So to do an elastic waistband, you really could use almost any skirt pattern that fits this waist right here. Now if you cut a circle skirt pattern that's just is smaller than this, then it won't really quite fit because the bodice is bigger than the skirt. So I will do like a gathered skirt or something like that. So this is more of a gathered skirt, and you can actually create a gathered skirt by adding, measuring your waist and adding like it's a 1.5 ratio, and then you can create the waist that width and then the length that you want. And you can do it that way as well, so you don't have to use a pattern, but I already have a pattern, so I'm just going to use that. And then we're going to create a casing to insert our elastic to create an elasticated waistband. So it comes in and cinches at the waist, which is what I want. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this skirt pattern off the Be Graceful, but like I said, if you wanna do a self-drafted, you can measure your waist and then cut a piece that is 1.5 the width of your waistline plus the length that you want. So let's cut that and get back so I can show you how to make the elasticated waistband. I'm trying to make this skirt as long as possible, but as you can tell, this fabric, I don't have enough of it, so I'm gonna have to go to the length of the fabric that I have. So I'm gonna have to probably take off from the other piece as well, because I made the other one a little bit longer because I wanted it to be kind of like a meaty length. So it's a little bit longer than the knee length, but not quite long enough. But we'll see. We might have to just make it a knee length skirt because we don't have enough length. Okay, now that I have my front and my back cut, I'm going to sew the side seams together. This pattern does come with a pocket option, so if you wanted to do pockets, you definitely could add pockets. I'm not adding pockets to this one. I know, how could I? But I don't always like pockets. I like the ease of pockets to put stuff in them, but I don't like the bulk of pockets. So a lot of times if I'm making a dress that is a little bit slimmer, so it's not like a huge, you know, like gathered skirt, I omit pockets. I know. Alright, so as you can see right here, my skirt is wider than my bodice by just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is after I sew the sides, I'm going to put in a basting stitch here to just gather this up a little bit so it will fit into my bodice. So let's go do that. Before I go ahead and put that gathering stitch in, I'm gonna mark my half of my skirt so that way I know exactly where the half is for when I go to attach it. And now I'm just putting a long straight stitch. Alright, so now that we've got that gathering stitch right there, we have those marks. We're gonna make the marks also on the bodice so I know exactly where my halves are. Okay, and then we're gonna go ahead and grab our body or our skirt, and we're going to pull on the bobbin thread and gather it so that it fits. not gonna be a ton of gathering because it was just a tiny bit bigger than her skirt. So it's just a little bit of gathering, not a whole lot. I like to go to one side and then I like to grab the quarters and then go and pull from the other side so that way they're pretty even. All right, now that they're even, I'm gonna fit my skirt right sides together onto my bodice. So we're gonna match up those marks that we created where the halves are and everything, and the side seams. All right, now once that's done, we're gonna match up all those edges, and then we're going to go into our, we're gonna go to our sewing machine and sew it up an inch away from the raw edge because we're going to create a casing. So we don't wanna sew it right at the edge. We wanna sew up about an inch away. We wanna create an inch casing. So we're gonna sew with a some kind of stretch stitch on your sewing machine, but you do not want to use your serger because you want to have that extra seam allowance to create the casing, that inch seam allowance to create the casing. So this is our edge. We're gonna sew about an inch in from our edge all the way around. All right, now that we've sewn all that, now we're going to trim your seam allowance. I'm gonna trim just one side. I'm gonna trim the bodice seam allowance, but I'm not gonna trim the other seam allowance because that's what's going to get top stitched down to create that casing. So I'm just going to grab my scissors and very carefully cut out my bodice seam allowance, that inch seam allowance right here. Don't cut your threads, just the seam allowance. All right, y'all are probably confused, as am I. I told you to cut the bodice, and here I cut the, what I ended up cutting was the, what do you call it? The other piece, but whatever, it's fine. It doesn't matter. I cut the skirt off and not the bodice, but that's okay. Don't worry about it. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna move forward, and it'll be okay. All right, so now I'm turning everything wrong side out because I want to, the next step is to attach that seam allowance that I left onto the dress. So usually you cut this one right here, you cut the bodice so that the skirt will get tucked in like this, right? And we want to go up towards the bodice because we want to have that higher up, that seam higher up. But because I didn't cut it towards the bodice, I'm gonna sew it towards the skirt. And no, I'm gonna still sew it towards the bodice, but then that means that I'm going to have this seam allowance sticking out right here, which will be fine. You won't be able to see it on the outside. You'll see it on the inside though. Usually if you cut the bodice piece, then that skirt allowance comes over the bodice piece, so you're not seeing that. So learn from my mistake. I set the bodice and I cut the skirt by accident. That's okay. You're just gonna be able to see that seam on the inside. But I'm moving forward with my project, and now I'm going to pin it, and I want to sew it all the way around, leaving a little gap, about 2-inch gap, where I'm going to insert my elastic. So I'm going to pin it all the way around and sew it, leaving a gap. All right, I'm also using a stretch stitch to top stitch, and you can actually use, go from the other side, the right side, but I'm going from the wrong side because I want to see exactly where I am catching this. So that's why I'm doing it from this side. All right, so the next step is to grab your elastic, and what I like to do is I just kind of like to measure around my waist with my elastic and see how tight I want it. What people say is about measure and then about 2 to 3 inches, cut about 2 to 3 inches off, depending on how tight you want it. We're gonna just go for it. Measure around my waist and see how tight I want it and go with that. We're gonna Now we're gonna place our elastic around that casing we created. So we left that area open right here, and then I'm just going to fit my elastic all the way through. All right, so now as it comes out on the other side, we want to make sure that it's even. It's all straight, and we're going to overlap them and zigzag stitch it and then close the gap, and we're basically done. Then all we have to do is hem. All right, friends, we are basically finished. How cute does it turn out? I love it. There's just one thing left to do, which is hem, and I am a little bit, I don't know. I wanted it to be a little bit longer because I wanted that like flowy effect, but I didn't have enough fabric to make it longer, as you saw when I was cutting it. So then now I'm wondering, do I want to go ahead and hem it to above the knee, or do I want to either try to purchase more of the same fabric or do like a color blocking thing and do like a little ruffle at the bottom so it's more of a midi length? What do y'all think? I like how like comfy and like fun it is with the gathered sleeves and everything, and I thought maybe a next tier would bring it up to the next level, but I'm not really sure. So I'm going to leave it up to my friends to help me out, figure out what I want to do with this dress. So comment below and let me know what you think. Should I leave it as is and just hem, or should I add another tier? And if you think I should add another tier, should I use a different color, or should I try to get the same fabric? Let me know what you think, and I'll come back and let you all know later when I finish it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I just want you to know that if there's something you're thinking about, something you see, an inspiration, and you want to make it, you definitely can. You just have to figure out what patterns you need to use and how you can hack them. And if you have any questions, ask me and comment below and let me know what you want me to hack, or if you have an inspiration and you want to message me, you can find me personally on our Facebook page or on Instagram, and I can do some of those hacks with you. I love it. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Get out there and sew, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.